Elvis Presley's final 24 hours, the untold story. I might not make it tonight. Don't try to stop anything that happens. These chilling words came from Elvis Presley during one of his final phone calls, just hours before the world would lose the king of rock and roll. What happened in those last 24 hours? Why did Elvis sound so certain he wouldn't survive the night? The answers are more disturbing than most people realize. August 15th, 1977 started like any other day at Graceland, but it would end in tragedy that shocked the entire world. Elvis Presley, the man who changed music forever, would spend his final hours in a desperate battle for sleep, surrounded by pills, haunted by pain, and making phone calls that would later send chills down the spines of everyone who heard them. This is the complete timeline of Elvis's last day on Earth, and it reveals a lifestyle that was slowly destroying the king from the inside out. The Nocturnal Kingdom. To understand Elvis's final day, you need to understand how he lived. The king of rock and roll had completely reversed his internal clock. While most of the world slept at night, Elvis came alive. He performed late, stayed up until dawn, and slept through most of the daylight hours. This wasn't just a preference, it had become his entire existence. Graceland operated like a 24-hour operation to support this lifestyle. The Memphis Mafia, Elvis's trusted inner circle of friends and employees, were always on call. They showed up at the mansion at all hours, ready to play racquetball at 4 a.m., or listen to Elvis play gospel music as the sun rose. His father, Vernon Presley, lived right next door with his new wife, Dee Stanley, and Elvis's stepbrothers, so family was never far away. Everyone in Elvis's orbit either worked for him or benefited from his incredible generosity, which meant they adapted to his schedule without question. But this lifestyle came with a dark side. Elvis's personal physicians were also available around the clock, regularly dispensing painkillers, sleeping pills, and a cocktail of pharmaceutical medications. Dr. George Nicopolis, known as Dr. Nick, was Elvis's personal doctor and had become deeply entangled in the star's dependency on prescription drugs. The king had access to medication whenever he wanted it, and on his final day he would take full advantage of that access. An ordinary afternoon. At 4 p.m. on August 15th, 1977, Elvis Presley woke up in his bedroom at Graceland. For him, this was morning. He spent the afternoon with his 9-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie, and his fiancée, Ginger Alden. Ginger was a beauty queen who had captured Elvis's heart, and he'd proposed to her earlier that year. He desperately wanted her to move into Graceland permanently, to become a constant presence in his home, but Ginger had refused. He had asked me to move into Graceland, but I never did, she later recalled. He said, "I respect you for that. I just didn't at the time. It wasn't my way." This decision would haunt Ginger forever, because it meant she was still somewhat of an outsider in Elvis's world, not fully integrated into the strange 24-hour operation that kept the king functioning. Looking back, many have wondered if things might have been different, if she'd been more permanently present, more aware of the dangerous patterns developing around her. The afternoon passed quietly. Elvis played with Lisa Marie, spent time with Ginger, and seemed to be in decent spirits despite the chronic pain that had become his constant companion. He had a tour coming up, with a show scheduled in Portland, Maine for the very next day. The pressure to perform to be Elvis Presley for thousands of screaming fans never went away. Even when his body was breaking down, even when he could barely sleep, the show had to go on. Midnight Medicine. By 10:30 p.m., on August 15th, Elvis and Ginger made their way to see Dr. Lester Hoffman, Elvis's personal dentist. The king was experiencing ongoing tooth trouble, another source of the chronic pain that plagued him. But this wasn't just a dental visit. Elvis's medical team, including his dentist, physician, and nurse practitioner, were always ready to provide relief in the form of prescription medication. Pain was the enemy, and pills were the weapon Elvis used to fight back. They returned to Graceland around 2:30 in the morning on August 16th. As Elvis drove through the gates of his estate, he waved to the fans who were always stationed outside, hoping for a glimpse of their hero. One of those fans snapped a photograph, capturing Elvis in a bright blue shirt under a black jacket, wearing big black sunglasses, despite the darkness of night. Nobody knew it at the time, but this would be the final photograph ever taken of Elvis Presley alive. In that image, you can see the king still trying to maintain his image, still playing the part even at 2:30 in the morning. But once inside Graceland, Elvis's facade began to crumble. At 2:15 a.m., he called Dr. Nicopolis requesting painkillers. The doctor prescribed 6 dilaudid tablets, powerful opioid pain medication. Elvis sent his stepbrother Ricky Stanley to pick them up from Baptist Memorial Hospital's 24-hour pharmacy. When Ricky returned, Elvis took the painkillers immediately. This was just the beginning of a medication marathon that would continue throughout the night. The rain that stopped. Around 4 a.m. on Tuesday, August 16, 1977, Elvis did something that seemed completely normal for him, but bizarre to anyone else. He called his cousin Billy and Billy's wife Jo, inviting them over to play racquetball. At 4 in the morning. This was life in Elvis's world, where time had no meaning and entertainment happened whenever the king desired it. Billy and Jo arrived at Graceland ready to play, but rain started pouring down on the outdoor court. Most people would have called it a night and gone to bed, not Elvis. According to those present, Elvis raised his hands to the sky and declared, "Rain, be gone." And then something strange happened. The rain stopped. Everyone stood there in shock as the clouds cleared and they were able to play their game. Was it coincidence? Divine intervention? Nobody could explain it, but it became one of the legendary stories from Elvis's final hours. After their brief game around 4:30 a.m., the group moved to a piano located behind the racquetball court. Elvis sat down and began playing gospel music, which had always been close to his heart. He played 2 gospel songs with passion and soul, his voice still powerful despite everything his body was going through. Then he transitioned into Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, the beautiful ballad that took on haunting significance given what would happen later that day. Those who heard him play that morning said there was something different in his performance, something almost like a farewell. The desperate hunt for sleep. By 5 a.m., Elvis and Ginger retreated to his bedroom. The sun would be rising soon and Elvis needed to sleep. He had that show in Portland to get ready for, and he couldn't perform if he didn't rest. Dr. Nick had left medication packets with Tish Henley, Elvis's nurse. These concoctions were specifically designed to help Elvis fall asleep, carefully measured combinations of sedatives and sleeping pills that should have knocked out anyone. Elvis took the first full packet. Then he waited and waited. Sleep wouldn't come. His mind was racing, his body was in pain, and the pills that usually worked their magic were failing him. By 7 a.m., Elvis was desperate. He took a second full packet of pills. This was a dangerous amount of medication, enough to make most people seriously ill, but Elvis's tolerance had built up over years of prescription drug use. What would hospitalize a normal person was just another attempt at rest for the king. Ricky Stanley was supposed to be on duty that morning covering the noon to 3 p.m. shift, but Elvis needed help immediately. He called for Ricky to bring more medication, but Ricky was nowhere to be found. Frustration and panic rising, Elvis contacted his Aunt Delta Mae Biggs in a rage, demanding that she call Dr. Nicopolis. The desperation in his voice must have been frightening. Nurse Tish Henley answered the call at Dr. Nick's office, and she was hesitant. Elvis had already taken 2 full packets. Giving him more medication was dangerous, potentially deadly, but Delta Mae insisted, and finally Henley relented. She provided a third, smaller packet containing 2 Valmid tablets and additional insomnia medication. This third packet was delivered to Elvis around 8 a.m. Think about that for a moment. In the span of just 3 hours, Elvis Presley had consumed 3 separate packets of powerful sedatives and sleeping pills on top of the painkillers he'd taken earlier in the night. His body was being flooded with pharmaceuticals, and still, sleep eluded him. Lisa Marie, his precious 9-year-old daughter, was sleeping in the bedroom right next door. completely unaware that her father was engaged in a dangerous game with prescription medication. The final words, around 9:30 a.m. on August 16, 1977, Elvis told Ginger he was going to the bathroom. He was wearing gold pajamas and carrying a book titled The Scientific Search for the Face of Jesus by Frank Adams. Elvis was known for spending hours in the bathroom due to severe chronic constipation, a condition worsened by his medication use. It wasn't unusual for him to take a book and disappear for an extended period. But as Elvis headed toward the bathroom, Ginger had a strange feeling. She called out to him, warning him not to fall asleep in there. Elvis turned back and said two words that would echo in Ginger's mind for the rest of her life. "I won't." Those were the last words Elvis Presley ever spoke to anyone. I won't. A simple promise that he would be careful, that he would be okay, that he would come back. But he wouldn't keep that promise. The Discovery Ginger Alden woke up around 2 p.m. on Tuesday, August 16, 1977. She was alone in bed, which was slightly unusual but not alarming. Elvis often got up while she slept. She went about her routine, getting dressed and putting on her makeup. She even called her mother for a casual conversation. Everything seemed normal. But eventually, Ginger noticed that Elvis had been gone for an unusually long time. Even for someone known to spend hours in the bathroom, this was excessive. She decided to check on him. What she found when she opened that bathroom door would traumatize her forever. Elvis Presley was lying on the floor, face down. He hadn't made it to the toilet. It was clear he had fallen and experienced some kind of medical emergency. The book he'd been carrying was nearby. Ginger tried to rouse him, but Elvis didn't budge. His body was cold. In that moment, she knew something was catastrophically wrong. Ginger screamed for help. Al Strada, who was in charge of the house's afternoon shift, responded to her calls. Lisa Marie, hearing the commotion, came to see what was happening. Ginger immediately took the little girl away from the scene, shielding her from the sight of her father lying motionless on the bathroom floor. An ambulance was called. Vernon Presley, who lived next door, was contacted and rushed to the scene. The final journey. At 2:33 p.m. on August 16, 1977, emergency services arrived at Graceland. The paramedics initially thought this was just another typical Graceland incident, maybe an overexcited fan who had fainted or a minor emergency. They had no idea they were responding to the death of one of the most famous people in the world. According to official statements, an ambulance from Memphis, Fire Department's Engine House 29, located at 2147 Elvis Presley Boulevard, responded to the call at 2:33 p.m. They transported Elvis to Baptist Memorial Hospital's emergency room, arriving by 2:56 p.m. The hospital was only 7 miles from Graceland, but it must have felt like an eternity for everyone involved. Doctors and medical staff worked frantically to revive Elvis, but it was too late. The combination of medications, his deteriorating health, and the hours he'd spent alone in that bathroom had proven fatal. At 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 16, 1977, Elvis Aaron Presley was officially pronounced dead. He was only 42 years old. The world mourns. Around 4 p.m., the news reached the world's media. Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently it was a heart attack. He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing. Those words crackled across television sets and radios around the globe, and the world stopped. People couldn't believe it. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, the man who had changed music forever, was gone. Fans gathered outside Graceland, weeping and holding vigil. The outpouring of grief was immediate and overwhelming. "I just can't believe he's dead. It's terrible," one fan said through tears. "But I just thank God that Elvis died here in Graceland." Whether you were black or white, country redneck or urban freak, young or old, From Moscow, London, or Memphis, Elvis Presley was the king of rock and roll. His death marked the end of an era. The man who had gyrated his hips and scandalized parents in the 1950s, who had served in the army, starred in movies, and made the comeback special of a lifetime, was gone. The mystery remains. In the years since Elvis's death, questions have persisted. What exactly killed him? Was it truly a heart attack, or was it the massive amount of prescription drugs in his system? Some people believe Elvis is still alive, that he faked his death to escape the pressures of fame. Conspiracy theories have swirled for decades. But for those who were there in Elvis's final 24 hours, the truth is more tragic and more simple. Elvis Presley was a man in chronic pain, dependent on prescription medications, surrounded by enablers who couldn't or wouldn't say no to him. Dr. Nicopolis would later face scrutiny for his role in prescribing so many drugs to Elvis. Some have wondered if the doctor was actually working against Elvis, if those medication packets were designed to harm rather than help. The reality is that Elvis's lifestyle had become unsustainable. The reverse sleep schedule, the constant access to pharmaceuticals, the pressure to perform despite deteriorating health, it all created a perfect storm. And on August 16, 1977, that storm finally claimed the king. Elvis Presley's legacy lives on through his music, his films, and the cultural revolution he sparked. He made the world a better place, bringing people together through the power of rock and roll. But his final 24 hours serve as a cautionary tale about fame, excess, and the dangers of prescription drug dependency. Those mysterious phone calls Elvis made, where he told people he might not make it through the night, suggest that on some level he knew what was coming. Whether it was intuition, premonition, or simply the acknowledgement that his body couldn't take much more, Elvis seemed to sense that his time was running out. He spent his last conscious hours doing the things he loved, playing music, spending time with family, trying desperately to rest so he could get back on stage and perform for his fans. In a way, it was a fitting end for someone who had given everything to his art and his audience. But it was also a tragedy that could have been prevented. The king of rock and roll died alone on a bathroom floor, wearing gold pajamas, having consumed enough medication to fell an elephant. It's a sad, undignified ending for someone who brought so much joy to the world. But it's the truth of what happened in those final 24 hours at Graceland, and it's a story that deserves to be told.